Well. Hello, Miami. Welcome to another installment of the Chief Jimmy Brown Show. Eric Pettis coming to you live from the WMBM 1490 AM studios, the station that prays, the station that puts Jesus Christ first. I am blessed and honored this evening to have two friends of mine, Towson State University alums, here on the show. We have Mr. Galen Muhammad on tonight, and we also have Rosalind Mickens doing a repeat. So she's back from last week. So I'm gonna let her introduce herself again first, ladies first, and also that she was here last week. So have her go first, and we go.
All right, I wanted to thank you again, Eric, for having me back, and I wanted to say hello, everyone in the audience. My name is Roz Mickens. I am an educator, and I'm also the owner of Steel Petal Defense. It's a self-defense firearms company, and I come tonight at Eric's request to be able to speak about that. And I'm also the vice president of Onyx Sharpshooters Gun Club, which is a gun club under the umbrella of the National African American Gun Association. So thank you. I hope you call in tonight and have questions for me. Thank you.
All right. Yes. Call in 888-599-9626, 888-599-9626. Call in and get your gun questions answered. Ladies and gentlemen, go ahead, Mr. Galen Muhammad.
Yes, my name is Galen Muhammad, and let me take my breath here. So I'm the owner operator of the Onyx Training Group, also firearms training company, where we teach about handguns and long guns, to include the AR-15 platform. Chapter president of Onyx Sharpshooters, as Ross just stated, the chapter here in Forestville, Maryland, for the National African American Gun Association. I'm also blessed to be the state director for Maryland and Washington, D.C. for the same organization. And again, happy and thanks to be for us being here.
All right. Well, I wanted to, before we started, one of the things that in doing some research, I found this amicus brief that I call it NAGA, National African American Gun Association, right?
Yes.
So they put out a amicus brief to the Supreme Court involving a Second Amendment case, and I'm going to post this on my Facebook page. Because one of the things that I like about this brief is that it gives a 50-page brief, very well documented history of African American gun ownership or lack thereof. And I know that you've spoken a little bit with me in the past, Galen, about some of the laws and things like that kept Black folks from owning guns. So you want to go into a little bit of that?
Yes. Basically, after the Civil War, and I mean, of course, the South lost handily, and everything that it was trying to promote, i.e., maintaining slavery, was put to rest. That was not what the country wanted. So yeah, had to get that dig in there. But certain states that were like Maryland, for example, Maryland is one of those borderline states. I know Maryland is considered a northern state. Maryland is not a northern state. Maryland is a southern state. Maryland is south of the Mason-Dixie line. It is not north of the Mason-Dixie line. The most southern northern state is Delaware and Pennsylvania. So Maryland is one of those southern states. that even after the Civil War decided that, well, we're not going to allow those blacks to own or guns or ammunition in their homes at all. And we'll make it illegal and we'll encode it in our state laws. So Maryland was one of those states. So yeah, that's our history here in Maryland. We have to live with that.
Right. So, Roz, what is do you find yourself working more with female gun owners, and what's your perspective on gun ownership when it comes to women?
Okay, I actually work with both. I try to work with families if I can. That's men, women, children. I'm certified to teach children self-defense for firearms. That includes from toddlers on up. And what people like, well, what do you mean toddlers? Well, we teach things as far as for the kids to not touch the firearm. We don't want them to be afraid of it. When I was growing up, you know, my granddad would go hunting, my dad would go hunting with his brothers, and we were never afraid of firearms, but we want them to not touch it, not see it as something to be curious about. Let them know it's a firearm. Go talk to an adult and say, look, I found this firearm there. So we teach kids how to be safe. And when they get older, when their parents decide, or I sit and talk to them and they want to teach them how to shoot, then yes, we do have classes and I'm certified to teach that. I'm also certified to teach women's handgun training, and I'm also certified to teach, of course, men's handgun training. So basically, what I find a lot of women want to learn how to use firearms, but they feel like they're maybe, I don't know, they feel like they're being bullied sometimes if they go to a man, or hey, this is a former police, or this is a former, you know, military guy, and he's going to make me do push-ups or something if I'm not right. So they feel kind of intimidated. So sure, a lot of times they'll have questions for me or want to come and get the training from me, maybe. Or it depends on their situation. Some women have gone through assault in their lives with men, and they just don't have that trust for a man that they would for a woman, and that's quite understandable. I'm ready to work with anybody that is willing to allow me, and is so gracious as to allow me to be able to teach you.
I mean, I find that a lot of the females that I know, when it comes to guns, a lot of times that the reason why they were interested in going to learn to shoot, but when they went to go learn, they went on some shooting date, and whoever took them um, handed them some hand cannon, I call it, that they shot it and then it hurt and they never want to touch one again, because of what we know as recoil, but the explosion that they usually say, the explosion went off in my hand, and they don't want to shoot anymore. So how do either of you deal with that?
Absolutely. For me, it's easy to teach. You're supposed to be in a calm setting. You let the women know. I let women know that we could start with something small. Depends on their frame, depends on that woman's personality. Some women are like athletic, gung ho, whatever the case. They want to learn. They have some experience. We might start with something like a 22. We might start with, we don't want to put anything in their hands to intimidate them, but also even with the 22, even with a 9mm or a 380 caliber, I let them know that they are in control of the boom. And that's
Right.
like, wow, I'm in control. So once they feel like they're in control and it's not controlling them, that helps to empower them. Our main thing is about safety and empowerment and having fun, but we always stay safe throughout. So one of the things I try to definitely encourage women and men to do is know that they are the one in control of the firearm. The firearm is not in control of them. So that
Okay.
helps tremendously.
Okay. Okay. What's your point on that, Galen?
And no need in reinventing the wheel. Same thing here. I literally put a 9mm gun in one of my students' hands, young lady, and she shot it and turned into a Medusan statue. And I had to literally pry the gun out of her hand. So at that point in time, I decided, hey, I got to get another gun, one that's not too loud, boomy, or one not too much with not too much recoil. So I went ahead 122. So I start all my students off with that 22, no matter what. I've had men that have come to my courses, and they tell me that even that 9mm, because they have no experience. This is their first time shooting. So they come in, they may have shot somewhere else, and they said that their 9mm, oh, that was something else. I shot one time and I had to give the gun back to the instructor. And so I get them the 22. And they say, oh man, this is nothing.
Right. Okay. So how do you answer a lot of question I know people ask is, well, what gun should I buy? How do you answer that question?
But it's easy. The gun that they can shoot on a consistent basis as well.
Okay.
So that means going to a gun shop where they can find several different guns, put those guns in their hands, rent that gun, go on the range, shoot it. So that way they can go out there and see that, hey, I want brand X of this model of that gun. Versus me saying, yeah, go get her this or go get her that. And I'm giving them what I think that I can shoot well. And then they put the gun in their hand and they can't shoot it well. They're looking at me like, oh, you don't know what you're talking about. So best gun to shoot, they can shoot well consistently.
All right, how about you?
One thing not to do is don't have somebody else say, get this gun, and then they go out and purchase it. Firearms are not cheap, and you don't want to spend $600 on up dollars, $400 on up on purchasing something that worked well with someone else but doesn't fit your hand. It doesn't feel right for you. So another way, if I can add to that, is to also join or check out some of these gun clubs that are in your area. And there are several people that have firearms, and they probably will let you, shoot on their firearms in case you're not. And they might say, hey, here, try this. I went to the range and I found people that had different firearms that worked at the range, and I would go and they would allow me to shoot on their firearm. And that was pretty cool because I got an opportunity to learn which one worked best for my hand and which one worked best for my feet, the feel of my hand. A lot of times people will tell you, go out and get this particular brand. And that's just not the thing to do. Please, please, please don't take somebody's suggestion for what fit them and just assume that it was going to work well with you. You have to shoot a lot of different brands and see which one works well for you.
Sure, you remember the movie Men in Black, where Will Smith was handed the noisy cricket.
Right. Yeah, the little tiny.
Right. Right. So this gun, or this is really a drive, flash drive. But point is, if you hand somebody this gun and they have a hand this big, I can't show them how to get the proper grip with a small little teeny gun like this. So get the right size gun for your hand, not the right size gun for somebody else's hands about like this.
Right. You
need a hand. So again, that's why I made the recommendation. Go to a gun store, put the gun in your hand, see how that gun fits your hand. If it doesn't fit your hand, if it's too big, obviously don't get that gun. If it's too small, again, don't get that gun. Get the gun that fits your hand.
Okay. What about, does it matter what gun you have when it comes to, because obviously the smaller guns, if you want to have a gun that you can easily conceal, then that means it's going to be smaller. So it may not be the size to fit your hand that.
I tell you what, let me run away real quick. I'm gonna get a gun that's not quote unquote that small, but it's concealable. Hold on for 1 second.
I'm still here.
So what do you say?
I think you should still get a firearm that fits your hand. I mean, some of them have a slimmer profile, maybe because it's not a it's a single stack magazine. And what I mean by that, you have double stack magazines that are a little bit thicker because they hold the ammo. It holds like double stacks of ammunition in the magazine. A single stack magazine is a little bit slimmer profile, but that you can also change the grips in order to fit what you may want. You just have a little bit wider grip for a single stack, and that's very concealable. So you still want something that's going to fit your hand, whether it's an EDC, which is everyday carry, or whether it's your home defense firearm. It has to fit you, or else you're not going to have fun firing it.
Okay. All right. Are we safe? Safe there?
It's safe. No, it's loaded. No,
Okay.
this is loaded.
Oh.
Smith & Wesson,
Can we
MEP
make-
9.
Can we make it safe? for
Yes, you sure can.
our people.
You sure can. Okay, first thing I want to do, drop the magazine.
Okay.
And like I said, it does have ammunition. So I'm going to rack it. Round comes out.
Okay.
Can you see it? Okay.
All right. There we go. No
Empty.
accidents on the Chief Jimmy Brown show.
Oh yeah. All right,
All
totally empty. But so this is not a little teeny noisy cricket,
Okay.
but I do have my concealed carry holster with it, and it is concealable.
Mhm.
So obviously, like I said, this is trying to get it so the light won't. Okay. Yeah, it's not showing right.
Mhm.
But point is, it's not a little teeny gun, but this is concealable. I can wear this on my waist, under my shirt, totally concealable. So, I mean, you have to find a gun that is concealable on your frame. I know I had a conversation with Ross a couple of weeks ago, and not all guns are concealable on all frames, on all body frames. So you have to find a gun that's concealable on your frame. So as you're trying it, again, before you make that purchase, as Ross said, try it, see if it's concealable on your frame. If it's not, find another one.
And we were also talking when you stepped away about the grips. I said some grips, sometimes you can get a single stack magazine and just change the grips to make it fit your hand. And I mean, they'll have some firearms actually will have two different or three different. There's one already on it, but you'll be able to get the grips changed out to fit your hand. So if you need a little bit wider, it'll be a little bit thicker for that grip and for a single stack. Now, in certain jurisdictions, such as Washington, D.C., you're only able to have a 10-round magazine. In Maryland, you can have more than 10 rounds, but you can't purchase it in Maryland. You can't sell it in Maryland as far as the magazine. But you can, if the police see you, you have a wear and carry permit, and you have a 12-round or 15-round magazine in Maryland, and you have a wear and carry permit, you'll be fine. In Washington, D.C., you got problems because you can't have more than a 10-round magazine in Washington, D.C.
Okay. So now when it comes time when a person says, okay, I know I want to get a gun, I want to carry a gun, how quickly can they learn all of this that they know? What gun, what fits their hand? Where do they want to carry it? Do you all work with folks on different carry options okay, so how do you work that part through in your training?
Okay, Galen, did you want me to take it or you?
You sure? You go ahead.
Okay, for one, if we do all of that during the concealed carry class.
Okay.
I'm just gonna take it because as a woman, we have a lot more options, and it's a lot more I guess clothing and accessories that are out for women to be able to conceal carry. So we just basically check which one works best for that individual. Someone may want to carry one place is very uncomfortable. Do you carry a appendix carry, or do you carry at 5 o'clock, or do you carry mid back? Do you carry in a shoulder bag? If you're carrying a shoulder bag, you can't put that bag down. You can't have lipstick and perfume or anything else rattling around in that compartment. And you cannot put that bag down. You cannot put it down. And you don't want somebody to take that bag and bag snatch and try to run because your firearm is in there. So there are a lot of options for women to be able to carry. And we just talk to them, or I do, and we both, I'm sure, talk to them during the wear and carry or concealed carry class in order to speak about it. Now, if they want to carry right away, they basically, depending on what state they're in, if they're in Virginia is like Texas. They can go in, they have an ID, 10 minutes later, they run a background check. You can purchase whatever your money can afford. I think Florida is very similar, but in order to get the concealed carry permit to be able to carry, you would have to do something a little different and have a class that you have to take. But that's part of the problem, right? If somebody can go in, they don't have any handgun experience, and they're able to purchase this tool to defend themselves, one of the things we push for everybody is training. You have to, and when I'm not saying this, so you can train with me and take my class or whatever the case may be, but it's training. You can't go out here and purchase a car and never drove a car. You'll wreck, you'll hurt someone, you'll hurt yourself. You have to train for the firearm. You have to know what you're training for. If someone says, well, I don't ever want to carry it outside of my home, I just want it for home defense, then that's fine. Then they can train for home defense. We also teach, how to home defense classes. However, if you want to carry it for wear and carry, self-defense for yourself and your family when you're out and about, you have to know how to carry. You have to know how to deploy your firearm when it's time. You have to know how to stop the threat. We don't want anybody, and we have to judge a lot of things. Is this person a bully? Are they a braggart? If they are somebody that, hey, look what I got, I don't want to have any, then for me, I really don't teach people that show a personality of aggression and a bully. Why? Because it'll continue on with that firearm, right? I want somebody that's calm, cool, and collective and knows how to think. So that's one of the things, because one of the things that separates a firearm licensed carrier from people that are just out here in the street with guns is the element to think and be in control at all times.
Now, there's two things I want to address that Roz mentioned, and I'm going to take them in reverse order. I know I hear oftentimes when those who are opposed to us protecting ourselves, they're depending on the police to come and save them. Hey, good luck with that. But first things first, background checks. I know they think that in states like Florida, the Wild Wild West, and Texas, and so on and so forth, and people can go in and willy-nilly just buy a gun and walk out. That's in no state in the United States of America. In every state of the United States of America, there is a background check, period. Yeah. We keep hearing loopholes.
Yeah,
but nobody.
What is the gun show loophole they talk about?
It's called the boogeyman, because there's no such thing. We've gone to gun shows here in Northern Virginia, York, Pennsylvania, and the minute we say we're from Maryland, say, oh, it's an FFL guy over there, we can take you over there. Da, 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 da. There's always a means of doing background checks, because you're not just going to walk in and buy a gun like you're buying a roll of toilet paper. There's a background check everywhere we go. So I don't know anything about any gun show loopholes or nobody selling guns literally under the table. I mean, there's a background check on these guns. So they need to stop that.
I think that a lot of times when they say gun show loophole, they talk about the fact that if you're an owner, if I take my gun collection to a gun show and I pay whatever to set up a table, that I could actually sell my guns at the gun show. But I'm still responsible for who I sell it to. So I have to know that that person is not a felon,
Right. So,
that I'm selling a gun, or that they have the right. There's other reasons why you can't own a gun besides being a felon.
well,
But
I get that. I get that. But I'm saying, but here in Maryland, for example, again, I can't speak on what's
But
happening in
again,
Alaska.
it's a loophole because I can do it.
Right,
But
right,
at the end of the day, if I sell it to somebody that not supposed to sell it to, I got a problem.
right. And that's why, again, I know I can, like, I'm only speaking about Maryland, particularly. In Maryland, there's no way in the world that I can sell my guns to my neighbor unless that person undergoes a background check. That's our state law. So that's one of the good things about our state. We do have, they do cover that quote unquote loophole. So
Okay.
I cannot just walk out and like I'm selling them a pack of cigarettes. No, he has to undergo a background check. So even in private sales, and we discussed that even in our HQL class, or our handgun qualification course, that person has to undergo a background check in order for me to sell them a firearm.
Mhm.
So I get that loophole. But the second part I wanted to bring up was the training. Now, when it comes to training, and it's sad and unfortunate, but some of my students feel like once they get their concealed carry permit, they feel like, oh, I have arrived. When no, my training really begins now, which is what it really is. Because now that you are concealed carrying and you have to go out there among the public, um, it requires even more training. Okay, what do I do? Situational awareness and things of that nature. Where can I carry this particular gun? Where can I not carry this gun? So you have to be aware of what your training is. Something that you trained and took a class 3-4 years ago, you may forget certain things. So that training is ongoing.
Definitely. So you gotta keep up with what may have changed and what may not have changed. So so what other myths are there about gun shows and gun sales that you hear?
Mm,
Well, the one thing I wanted to say too about purchasing a firearm, I've known a lot of people that have purchased a firearm for home defense,
Mhm.
and you ask them where it is, and they'll say in their second bedroom closet in the back somewhere because they're afraid of the firearm. That's another reason to train. It's unfortunate, but it's true. A lot of people will purchase firearm. Maybe I don't know whether they didn't like it. It was recommended, but they're afraid of it. And so I'm like, well, I'm saying it's 2 o'clock in the morning. Something happens in your home. Now you're afraid to leave your room, and you have to go to that empty bedroom somewhere and figure out how to use your firearm. It's just not wise. I think people need to train for that reason also. Like we were talking about situational awareness, home defense, family defense, working out a plan. So we teach things all along those lines.
Okay. We're gonna take our commercial break right now, so we'll be back, keeping the Facebook Live going, and we'll be back in how many seconds? How long? 1 minute, 2 minutes, 2 minutes. Imagine this, a flexible schedule. Okay, so we're still live, so we can keep talking if you want. Don't leave it on the. Gotta make sure it goes out over the airwaves.
Oh, okay.
But I'm glad you all have come on tonight.
Well, thanks for having me back.
Oh yeah, definitely. Now, this would be a good time to put your logo up.
Oh,
Not this.
okay. That's my logo.
Everybody
Steel pedal defense. I have it on my shirt too, but that
give,
looks good.
give a website.
I do, but it's I think it's steel pedal. I forgot what it is. Oh my
what?
goodness.
Right.
Where do
Let's
we put
give
it?
out let's give out how folks can reach you when we come back.
I haven't been on my website in a long time.
Is moderator Alfonso Jackson Sr.
Oh, it's Webador. I got it.
Put mine in the chat.
I'm gonna put mine in there too.
Well, that's only going to be good for us on here. Not
Oh,
for
okay.
the-
I see.
It's okay.
Now I tell people that.
Gospel station. WMBM is available at 1490 on your radio dial at WMBM.com or download our app available in your app store. Gospel AM 1490 WMBM, WMBM.com. Called into the kingdom for such a time as this. We are the station that puts Jesus Christ first. We are gospel. We are talk. Gospel AM 1490 WMBM, WMBM.com. You're listening to South Florida's best gospel station, AM 1490 WMBM.
We are back live, WMBM 1490 AM, the station that put Jesus Christ first. We are talking about one of my favorite subjects, guns and ammo. So, got two of my friends on here that are gun enthusiasts, instructors, and representing the National Association of National African American Gun Association, NAGA.
There we go.
Not to be confused with MAGA.
Not please.
This is NAGA. Okay. Yeah, I had to throw that one in there. So if you guys could, yeah, I'm gonna say it since you put it in the chat. www.onyxtraining.club. Okay.
Yes.
onyxtraining.club. Galen Muhammad, reach him at 240-343-4246, 240-343-4246. So go ahead, Roz, get yours in too.
Okay, mine is Steel Petal, Steel, STEEL, Petal, PETAL, Defense at Webador.com. I'm sorry, Steel Petal Defense .webador, WEBADOR.com. And my email address is steelpetaldefense@gmail.com.
Awesome. So with that said, all right, we left off at we were talking about concealed and where to carry, and talked about gun show loophole myth, and talked about how to transfer firearms and that type of thing. So I think I want to share with some of the folks. I'm going to read a little bit of this and make this brief real quick, so we can kind of talk about some of that. So it says summary of argument. So New York's prohibition on carrying a handgun and its refusal to make carry licenses available to all law-abiding citizens violates the right of the people to bear arms protected by the Second Amendment. During the colonial founding and early republic periods, slaves and even free blacks, particularly in the southern states, were either barred from carrying a firearm at all or were required to obtain a license to do so, which was subject to the discretion of a government official. African Americans were not considered as among the people with the right to bear arms. Exclusion of let me say that again. African Americans were not considered as among the people with the right to bear arms. Exclusion of African Americans from the rights of the people in the Second Amendment and other Bill of Rights guarantees was in conflict with the explicit text. The argument has been made that the Second Amendment was adopted to protect slavery, but the defect was not in recognizing the rights of white Americans, but was in not recognizing the rights of Black Americans. The impetus for recognition of the right to bear arms came from the northern states, which had abolished or were in the process of abolishing slavery. After the Civil War, the southern states enacted the Black Codes, which prohibited African Americans from bearing arms unless they obtained a license, which an official had the discretion to grant or withhold. No such requirement existed for a citizen to bear arms, meaning a white citizen. Congress sought to rectify this by protecting the right of all persons to bear arms in the Civil Rights Act and Freedmen's Bureau Act of 1866. The 14th Amendment was understood to guarantee the right to carry arms from state violation through arbitrary licensing restrictions. The right to bear arms was further protected by the Civil Rights Act of 1871, but restrictive licensing continued in the Jim Crow era. Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. was himself denied a carry license under a discretionary issuance law. New York's discretionary licensing scheme is within a similar legacy as the Black Codes and Jim Crow regimes that prohibited the carrying of firearms by African Americans without a license, subject to the discretion of the licensing authority. The difference is that instead of discriminating only against Black people, it deprives the people at large of the right to bear arms and bestows the privilege on a tiny subset of the people. So, again, that court case is really about New York denying everyone the right to have a firearm unless you get special permission from some official. And we all know that that permission is granted to but a few people.
Eric, when was that amicus brief written? When was that written?
It doesn't say.
I believe that was in reply to the Bruen decision, because even after the Bruen decision, we still have the governor of New York,
Kathy Hochul.
Right, creating boogeymans wherever she can to deny the citizens of New York from being able to protect themselves. In the meantime, the criminals don't give a doggone beaver's dam about their laws, and they still have guns.
Well, that was in August of last year that the Bruen decision came out. And basically it's saying, if you're a law-abiding citizen, then you should be able to bear arms. And so right now, New York is actually violating the citizens' rights over the Supreme Court ruling. I mean, it's really, they're in a horrible position there because the Supreme Court decided if you're a law-abiding citizen, there's no reason that you should not be able to bear arms in order to defend yourself.
But what they're also doing is they're adding to the law. They are removing qualifiers or instructors who can actually teach the concealed carry class. No longer, because of their whatever issue they have with the NRA leadership, now they're using that as a means of blocking NRA instructors now from being able to teach the course. They're also trying to block those who are certified under USCCA, and you have to go through some state agency now as an instructor to be able to teach the course. So they're adding hurdles to the 100-meter dash. Okay. Or excuse me, the 400-meter dash. They're adding additional hurdles to the hurdles that are already there.
Another thing it talks about in this brief, it says that Virginia law provided that no free Negro or mulatto shall be suffered to keep or carry any firelock of any kind, any military weapon, or any powder or lead without first obtaining a license from the court of the county or corporation in which he resides. That was a 1819 law.
And you know
As a,
why? That goes to show this. A lot of times you'll hear people say, well, Black people were fighting on the side of the South. No, they weren't. Why would they? How could they possibly fight on the side of the South when they were not going to give enslaved Black people firearms? They just and ammo and teach them how to use it. They just weren't going to do that. That just goes to further show why it's a whole myth on how the South had Black people fighting on the side of the South. I mean, think about it. If a person were enslaved by the South, what do you think they would do if they had a firearm and unlimited ammo?
Hurt it on them.
And another thing says, it's the contrast with free citizens was stark, calling the Second Amendment the true palladium of liberty. St. George Tucker wrote, "The right of self-defense is the first law of nature. Wherever the right of the people to keep and bear arms is under any color or pretext whatsoever prohibited, liberty, if not already annihilated, is on the brink of destruction." So when I read that and you consider keeping Blacks from having guns, it says whenever prohibited, liberty, if not already annihilated, is on the brink of destruction. So if I don't ever want you to be truly free, I'm going to prevent you from having firearms for your own protection and to be able to the first law of nature, which is self-defense.
Correct.
So,
well, Eric, I wanted to say that this is kind of important too. But a lot of these, instead of the government prohibiting Black people from getting guns and training, right now they've convinced a lot of us, unfortunately, to not get them, to not train in them. And they're doing that through a lot of the gun buyback programs. It's like, okay, well, wait a minute. If you see a firearm that your granddad gave you and the gun works well and it's fine and you just afraid of it, they're going in and taking these firearms. They could be antique, they could be new firearms, whatever, and they're trading it in for a $50 coupon to Target or something. And that's unfortunate because instead of going and getting the proper training, they're taking a perfectly good firearm that they should be using to defend themselves if somebody were to break in their home, and they're trading it in for $50. It's just the government doesn't have to do it to us. We're doing it to ourselves through lack of knowledge. And one of the things I want to stress is they're going through the churches and most of the point in time in order to do the gun buyback programs, because they're convincing a lot of the people, our people, that you're a bad person if you have a gun. But if you look at a police officer, or you don't think that. If you look at someone in the military, you don't think that. But somehow us as private citizens, we're supposed to think that we're bad. And a lot of it is just a carryover from those antiquated laws that they had in the South for our people. They don't, I mean, it's we have to get that out of our head that you're a bad person if you have a firearm. I'm a school teacher. I'm also a firearms instructor. I work with kids with disability special education students. That I'm their teacher. I'm a very good person, but I also want my people to be defended and protected at all times if they're out here in the public. Criminals don't care about our laws. Law-abiding citizens care about laws. So when they tighten the noose on stricter gun laws, they're hurting the law-abiding citizens, not the criminal.
That's part of classical conditioning. I mean, we were taught that, that's why I said, guns bad. So therefore, keep repeating that Pavlov experiment. We keep repeating that, and nobody's saying, well, how are the guns bad? Well, a gun, as I just showed you, it's an inanimate object. It can't think or do on its own. Guns don't float down the street shooting at people. It's the person that needs to be apprehended or stopped that's carrying the gun, but it's not the law-abiding citizen. We have a problem with conflation. We go to Annapolis every year, or whether physically or virtually, and we see people speaking out against law-abiding citizens being able to protect themselves. They speak of loved ones or themselves being injured or worse with a handgun, but they never say it was a concealed carry permit holder whose name is that hurt my son, that shot this person or that person. They never say that. It was a criminal that did that. So our problem is in our community, we conflate law-abiding citizens who carry to protect themselves with criminals. And I am by no means a criminal, or I wouldn't pass the background check. So stop conflating law-abiding citizens with criminals. We are not the same.
Yeah, we're advocating for the law-abiding citizens so that you're not going out here defenseless against criminals. That's who we're advocating for. But by the same token, if a law-abiding citizen does not want to carry and is afraid to carry, then we're not advocating for you to carry either. The last thing I want is somebody to have a car, a firearm, a bus that doesn't know how to handle that item, that tool. So please don't go out here and get the keys if you don't know how to drive, don't want to drive, and you want to hide and duck and close your eyes when you're driving. It's the same principle. I don't want you to have a car. I don't want you to drive a bus or an SUV. I don't want you to have a firearm if you don't want one, because that tool is no good in your hands. So it's only for the people that want to learn, that want to train, that want to defend themselves and their families.
So likewise, we ask those same people to do us a favor and stop advocating to take guns from us, the law-abiding citizen, or make areas safe areas where we cannot protect ourselves. Just do that favor, okay?
Well, thanks to this brief that NAGA did, okay, I'm gonna equate it to some other thing. If you were told this, right? Every citizen has a right to bear arms and defend himself in the state. Wait, hold on. Let me get a better one. Tennessee's first constitution said that the freemen of this state have a right to keep and to bear arms for their common defense. Note, however, provided that no slave shall go armed with gun, sword, club, or other weapon. The Georgia Supreme Court held that the right to bear arms expressed in the Second Amendment is an inalienable right that applies to the states. The court invalidated a ban on open carry pistols based on the right of the whole people, old and young, men, women, boys, and not militia. In Georgia, it was unlawful for any free person of color in this state to own, use, or carry firearms of any description. Georgia's High Court held free persons of color have never been recognized here as citizens. They are not entitled to bear arms, vote for members of the legislature, or to hold any civil office. So all of my folks out there that say we have died for the right to vote, voting or the lack of wanting us to vote was tied to the same rules and laws as gun ownership. So I'm throwing it out there, and you can call me 888-599-9626 if you disagree, that gun ownership for Black folks, in my opinion, is neck and neck paramount to the right to vote. If they denied us the same exact verbiage, some of these states in the same law said no voting, no guns.
Facts.
Okay. So again, tell us more about NAGA and what NAGA does in the community, the world. What's its purpose?
Well, the main purpose is some of the things we've stated tonight. We want to go in and educate, because that's what's lacking. Now, NAGA was founded, and I say NAGA, the National African American Gun Association was founded on the 28th of February back in 2015 as an acknowledgement for Black History Month. But the goal is to educate primarily Black families because, again, as Ross and I have stated, we have been classically conditioned to hate and even have an irrational fear of guns. And unlike most other Second Amendment advocacy organizations, NAGA, or National African American Gun Association, comes with a historical piece to it where we learn the history of Black gun ownership. We take all of our new members through a certification, and the fact that it's mentioned in the amicus brief about Martin Luther King, they didn't teach us that in high school or school at all, or public school. They didn't teach us anything about that because they want us to know that Martin Luther King, he was for peace. Yeah, but he was for peace, but obviously he wasn't for passivity. So he did believe in self-defense. He did apply for a concealed carry permit. He was denied, but the fact that he applied for it, that fact was hidden from us. We didn't learn about the deacons of defense, who was the ones who were actually present during Martin Luther King's speeches, defending him with guns, by the way. So let's be clear on that. They weren't back there holding Bibles, no offense, but they were back there ready to take out, those who were attacking them. It wasn't a matter of them being aggressive, it's a matter of them being there for defense. But we didn't hear about or learn about these things during our history class. And it's ironic because some of these governors around this country that is supposedly not racist are trying to suppress Black history because those are the types of things that they want suppressed.
They didn't tell us about Monroe, North Carolina with Robert F. Williams, who was the president of the NAACP at the time. And we're talking about, this is the time where people were being lynched and everything else, and they did not want us to have firearms. And there were people actually that were advocating that our own people that were saying, no, we don't need firearms. People were being lynched every day. And Robert F. Williams was like, no way, I'm having my firearm. And he was the president of the NAACP in Monroe, North Carolina. And information like that is invaluable to us as a people. We need to understand that it doesn't make sense to give up your firearms. When I go to gun shows, it's people from everywhere else. We're some of the few, but there are people that are getting these firearms. They're purchasing them. They have many, many rounds. They have thousands of rounds that they pick up. They have new weapons that they're purchasing. Some people have, a storehouse full of firearms. And you just hear us talking about gun buyback programs. But I did a podcast earlier last year sometime, and I was talking to people all over the country. They always have the gun buyback programs in our part of town. They never have it on the other side of town, ever, 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 because they wouldn't stand for it. And I'm like, this is just so clear. Why are they trying to get us, who are the highest rate of victims of hate crimes, and according to FBI statistics, why are they trying to get us to give up our firearms? It just makes absolutely no sense. If I'm number one being attacked, then I need to be having a firearm, and I need to definitely be trained on how to protect myself and use it.
When we look at history again, we hear about and we discuss Black Wall Street and Tulsa and Rosewood, and where Black, community had successful businesses that were attacked. Say again?
Slocum, Texas,
yes.
Osterville, Georgia.
All of these places where they had successful Black businesses. Just imagine if, in addition to those successful Black businesses, they also taught the community to get firearms and ammunition so they could protect not only themselves but their businesses. Would those businesses be here today?
Yeah, definitely. You have Definite point there. So let me ask you this. So do you all remember your first gun show? We got 3 minutes left. Do you remember the first time tell me about your first visit to a gun show?
It was funny. We went to our first gun show. It was in Chantilly, and we had all just applied for. Everybody was in our instructors course. We had all just applied to be certified instructors in Maryland, and I think somebody got their email and opened it up and said, "Yeah, here's mine right here." And everybody opened up the emails, and they were our instructors' certificates from Maryland. So yeah, I remember that very well.
And the line was like a zigzag, like it was at an amusement park. And we were some of the few people that were there. The black people that were there.
People of color.
Yeah,
Black folks, right.
the people of color.
Black
We were the
people.
few black people that were there. So I mean, it wasn't any other color other than white people. But we zigzagged through, and this was during the vid of the period of time everybody had masks and things on, but it was packed to the hilt. It took us about 2 hours to get in, something like that, and it felt like we were about to ride the brand new roller coaster because we were zigzagging through the lines. The line was zigzagged out, so it took us about 2 hours at least to get into one of the buildings. But yes.
So my first visit was they had a gun show at the Armory down here in Florida, and so when I walked in, there was nobody there other than the folks taking the tickets at a little window. So I went, paid my money, going, but it was pretty quiet. It was quiet, right? As soon as I opened the door and looked, I was like, "Whoa!" There were people everywhere. It was chaos. It was like one of those places when you see on speaking of Men in Black, where they had like the doors closed and you see nothing in the middle of the alley. Then you go and open the doors, a whole nightclub or whatever. People are jumping around. That's what it looked like. And I saw this older guy riding one of those little scooters, and he had an oxygen mask on. His feet were rested on top of 2 cases of ammo, and he had an AR-15 in the other hand, driving his little scooter around the place. And I said, if he needs a gun, then I need one. I don't know what he's riding around with this for, but I need it. And that's what that opened my eyes up to all that was going on. But yeah, it was one of those epiphany moments, and I'm like, these folks are seriously doing. I don't know what they're getting ready for, but I need to be ready too. And it was crazy. But in closing, give out your information again, and we're about to end the show. Tell us where we can.
Okay, Steel Petal Defense .webador.com, and it's email at steelpetaldefense@gmail.com.
And again, Galen Muhammad, Onyx Training Group, or www.onyxtraining.club. That's not a typo. And my number 240-343-4246.
All right. Well, again, thank you both for being on. Throw your sign up again, Roz, before you go. Oh yeah, not that sign, Galen. Alphas the Delta tonight. Steel Petal Defense. That was a good one.
You said sign. Okay. I was talking about this sign.
All right. Well, we are out of here. I want to thank you again for stopping by. We want to get you guys back in. We can talk some guns some more. Next time.
All right.
We'll talk about models and different things like that. So
absolutely. Thank you, Eric, for having us.
Sounds good.
All right. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.